No coordination here whatsoever, but I happen to have a slide of Bradford. There we go. So this is Roberts Park in Bradford. And the reason for showing this is, I shouldn't have favourites, but I do. This is probably one of my favourite park restoration projects we've ever funded, primarily because I was really involved at the very early stage of it, I was at the time working for English Heritage, but now for Heritage Fund. It's a really important historic park. It was in a pretty dire state when it was first invested, and now it is a brilliant example of an amazing urban park serving a really lucky group of people who live and can get to it. The reason for showing it is that many of you will know that the National Lottery Heritage Fund has been funding public parks, and it's 30 years. So in November, the National Lottery is 30 years old, and we've been funding public parks for pretty much the whole time. It's one of the very first things that the National Lottery funded was the regeneration of public parks. And over that time, we've invested over £1 billion now. 900 parks similar to this have been funded, and people have even written books about it, Paul. So there's some really good stuff written about this. My interest in this, I'm a landscape architect, and I've always had a love of public spaces and urban green space. And our work on public parks, I think, has been some of the most successful things that the lottery has done, really giving the money back to the people who play the lottery and make projects like this successful. And one of the things that has been really interesting from those projects and all those projects, if you go back 30 years ago, a huge number of skills have been developed in park services as a result of all this investment going into parks. So as a result of all that money, we've done horticulture training. There's a huge science now of building conservation, hydrology in historic parks, historic research, garden archaeology, public engagement, activity planning, volunteer management. All of those things I've seen flourish over that last 30-year period. But what's interesting is where we go next. And some of you will be aware, going back to 2016, and I know it sounds quite a while ago, but actually the findings of this report are as relevant today as they were when we published this. There's some really important things that have come out from that research, and this has basically informed the Heritage Fund's strategy for how we invest in public parks going forward since we did this work back in 2016. So very quickly, and I think at the time it was the biggest piece of research Heritage Fund had ever done, but also one of the most thorough research projects looking at the state of the UK's public parks. And it very quickly showed us the importance of local authorities as the owners of these spaces. It talked about the need to promote new partnerships and innovation. It talks about the communities, and we just heard all about that being the mainstay and how they need to be involved in this. And it talked about the development of new management and funding models. And particularly it talked about better understanding around wider values. So natural capital accounts, health, environment, biodiversity, all those things came through, being able to tell that much bigger story. And for us, the reason we did that report was we were worried about that £1 billion worth of investment and what would happen to it in the future. So we pretty quickly realised that actually not only do we need to invest in the regeneration of these spaces, but we also need to invest in the people that have a responsibility in trying to care, look after, fund and manage these spaces. And with the help of some more research, that this time by APSI, and APSI have taken over a lot of the State of Parks work, which is brilliant, so that's still going. APSI did a really good report, actually for the Parks Action Group that was set up by the Ministry of Housing, looking at skills for 21st century parks. And I'm sure some of you have heard colleagues like Eddie Curry talk about this before, but these are some of the new skills. So not only do you need to know all the stuff on the previous slide, but you also, and I'm telling you, you're all park managers, you know this, these are all the other things that you're going to need to do, or you are doing in your day jobs as well. So we very quickly realised that actually there are very few training programmes for parks professionals, and that actually skilling up the workforce, building that capacity was a key thing if we were going to make either regeneration projects like that happen again or protecting all of that past investment. So we developed a programme which was called Future Parks Accelerator, which you've heard from Barry today, who was one of the 8 projects that went through that programme with us. We did this in partnership with the National Trust. We had some funding from the Department of Levelling Up and Housing and Communities. And we invested in 8 projects that all generally were looking at the future of their public green space estates, how they would be managed, how they would benefit people, and the things that they could do to help bring in more income. And we've already heard from Barry talking about health in parks, the one at the bottom there. But some of the other projects also focused on urban nature networks and nature recovery. They focused on environmental justice, how everybody should have access to green space close to where they live. They focused on habitat banking and some of the new legislation that's coming out around biodiversity net gain, and they focused on communities. And there is a wealth of information from all of these projects, which have all now completed, on a website called Future Parks Accelerator, which you can Google. And there are podcasts and all sorts of bits of information there that will help you to learn, as Barry has been explaining earlier, help you learn what these projects went through and the things that they are now developing to take things forward. Last year we launched our new strategy. It's a 10-year strategy, and Heritage Fund with National Lottery Investment is the largest funder of the UK's heritage, and our vision is for heritage to be valued, cared for, sustained for everyone now and in the future. And one of the things that came with our new strategy is not only that over the next 10 years we will invest £3.6 billion of National Lottery Payer investment, but also we introduced a number of strategic initiatives that were to focus money on specific areas that we felt weren't being addressed. So you can still apply for park regeneration projects. So although we don't have some will remember the old Parks for People programme, you can still apply for park regeneration projects. And I was just going to ask at this point if Natalie and Mark, if you wouldn't mind just standing up. So my colleagues Natalie and Mark are both here. Both of them are from our engagement side, and we will be around at lunchtime this afternoon. So if you want to come talk to us about applications, come and grab us. Today's your chance to ask those questions. So you can still apply for funding for any kind of park regeneration project. But what we've also done is we've been working with the National Trust and Natural England and their sister agencies in the other countries to introduce a brand new initiative, which is called Nature Towns and Cities. Some of you will see we launched this a couple of weeks ago. We did a webinar, which is now on the Nature Towns and Cities website. We were slightly blown away. We had 720 people on that webinar. So we know that this is something that is of a lot of interest to a lot of people. And this is a partnership which is going to be focused on helping local authorities to build, to provide capacity for local authorities to engage with some of the things that we've been talking about this morning, whether it's biodiversity, climate change, health, working across departments, transportation. We want those that are working in the parks and the green space sector to be doing exactly what Ali was just talking about there, Sarah was talking about there, where we work across and we think about whole green space estates. So this is basically an invitation to you to join this new partnership. There are a number of organisations, and the National Trust and Natural England will be providing expertise and capacity. We will be providing grants to help provide that capacity. And our aim is to work with 100 towns and cities across the UK to help everybody have better access to nature. It's about putting green infrastructure at the heart of local authority plans. So all the things that we've just been talking about this morning, that you're probably sitting there thinking, wow, I want to do all of that. How can I do that? Well, hopefully this might help you. We have 15 million allocated. We reckon that will hopefully support around 20 to 30 places, but it very much depends on what people ask us for and the size of projects that we're able to support. So a couple of weeks ago, we wrote to every local authority chief executive and every local authority leader to invite them to be a part of this programme and come on this journey with us. The key thing I want to just stress is this is about whole spaces, it's about whole systems. So it's not just about restoring the principal park, it's looking at the whole green space network within a place and how that green space estate works, how sites work off each other, how nature is networked between them, and how you need all these different sizes and scales of spaces to provide really effective green space systems. The heroes there is that this is, if you like, a package of support. It's grant, it's expertise, it's working with cohorts, it's doing exactly what Barry and the team went through on the Future Parks work, where places all work together and share their learning together. And that's the last part of this. It will only work if everybody agrees to work as a cohort. So we want these places, whether it's Hull or Cardiff or whatever, we want these places to all work together so that they share their problems and share their ideas. There are 3 key components to it in England. So the first is the grant, which I mentioned, and I'll say more about that in a moment. The second one is that there will be an inclusive network, which will be free for anyone to join. And you can sign up to that now on the Nature Cities and Towns website. And that will include webinars, podcasts, access to experts. And that will be free for as many places as wish to join that. And then we're also working with Natural England on an accreditation scheme, which is about benchmarking progress within particular places. So this is in addition to Green Flag, and we've been working really closely with Paul Todd and the team at Green Flag. So Green Flag primarily focused on single sites. Accreditation is again focused on whole places. It's about making sure that whole places have green infrastructure strategies, are thinking about health across an entire place, are thinking about how those places might be funded in the future. And that will help our green flags to become stronger as a result of that work. There's a new website, the top up there, you'll see the link to that. It's a kind of first version of the website. We will launch a bigger and grander and more effective, hopefully, website in the spring, so keep your eyes for that. So it's open for all, and there are already some webinar and training events on there that you can sign up for. We're really keen that we don't duplicate the work of others as well. So we're working really closely with others in the sector. I mentioned Green Flag there. Also talking to Green Space Scotland, we're talking to Sustrans, we're talking to Groundwork. So we're really keen that we use this website as a way of signposting the other things that other organisations are doing. These are some of the things that we want to see on the website, for example. So it's about inspiration, it's about CPD, it's about learning, it's about webinars, it's about peer-to-peer networking, and there is a huge amount of knowledge, say, from those future places that we think that we can help people to give access to. So keep your eyes peeled for a lot of that. On accreditation, I mentioned that a little bit already. It will launch in early 2025. Natural England are busy building it at the moment. And the idea is that it will help particularly investors show that a place is a good place to invest money. It will show that a place has thought about its green infrastructure, thought about how it wants to use its public green spaces. So effectively it acts as a quality mark for those that might be willing to invest in, say, climate change or offsetting carbon, for example. That's the theory behind it, and Natural England doing a huge amount of work, and we're also talking to the other nations about how they might take something forward. But what we want is the projects that engage with us in this, we hope will help us to shape how that accreditation system will work. So how do you get access to some of that 15 million? As of 2 weeks ago, we launched the expressions of interest stage, which is where we're at the moment. So you can apply for grants from 250,000 up to 1 million. It's a mandatory expression of interest, which is basically a fairly simple form. I forget, 2 or 3 pages with about 8 questions. And the idea is that we sift through that so that we don't end up with lots of people wasting time writing really big, complicated applications. So it's a kind of sifting process. If you're successful at the expression of interest, then we will invite you to fill in a full application form, and there will be 1 round of funding. One of the things that I'm really keen is to see what success is like, and then we can always go back to our board and see if we can find some more money to support more places. We have 4 investment principles, and I would urge you to look at our website and read about our investment principles, because the projects will need to satisfy those, and they're about things like saving heritage and protecting the environment. Projects will have 2 to 3 years to deliver, so this is learning from future parks. That's about the amount of time it takes these projects to work through. And there will be a requirement for partnership funding, but that can be in kind, or it could be volunteer contributions, for example. Who can apply? It's open for any not-for-profit organisation. So if you're a local authority, absolutely you can apply. If you're a community organisation, you can apply. And we're really interested in joint applications where local authorities may be working with wildlife trusts or other community organisations. You don't need to be the owner of the space to be the applicant, but you need the owner signed up to the application. And also, if not-for-profit for-profit organisations are involved, then they would need to demonstrate public benefit, obviously, because this is public money. But we are really keen to see applications from all sites, different local authorities, combined authorities, districts, cities, boroughs, counties, and also partnerships, as I say. And it could be that we have several places combining to put in a combined application, a little bit like Islington and Camden did. We're open to ideas. It is a really open pitch. And to remember, these grants under Nature Towns and Cities are about capacity building, so they're not for capital works. So this is to provide you with that headspace, that resource, to allow you to do that thinking that Sarah was talking about, to take a step back from the day board, to either bring someone in to do your day job so you can go away and do that big thinking, or to bring in some people that will help you to do that big thinking. And this is about whole cities, whole towns. It's not about single sites. So in the expressions of interest, we will ask you questions about the scale of the green space that you're looking at. And it's about transformational plans. We really want people to be ambitious in thinking about this is a one-off opportunity. Please, we really want people to be really ambitious. And in terms of things that we'll be able to fund, it's about long-term thinking, it's about skills, it's about developing leaders, laying foundations for ambitious change, it's about working across local authority government departments, it's about developing new financial models as well. So all of these things are eligible for funding through this programme. Sorry, I'm going to skip over that one. Oh, sorry, duplicating a few things here, sorry. Crucial dates for you. The expressions of interest phase closes at noon on the 12th of November. So I know that's not far away, but I would emphasise it is a fairly light touch form at this stage. So I'd urge you to start having those conversations within your local authorities. Start thinking about, at this stage, all we need is a list of partners that you would work with. You don't need to have had detailed conversations. So it's fairly light touch at this stage, but the deadline, 12 noon on the 12th of November. We think, as a result of that, we will allow 30 or 40 projects through to full application. And then the application, so when you're writing your full detailed application, the period for that will be from the 16th of December through to the 7th of March. And our aim is to make grant decisions in June next year. And that's when the projects will have 2 to 3 years then to deliver. And the only other thing I would add to that is we need you to write at the start of your thing NTC at the start so we can identify these projects on our system. Those are the investment principles that I briefly mentioned. So think about these things when you're writing. All the things we've talked about this morning, all of these fit with our investment principles. Whether you're talking about access, you're talking about financial resilience, you're talking about heritage, you're talking about nature and biodiversity. Those are all things that fit within this. And supporting evidence, so for the expression of interest, you'll simply need a list of partners and organisations. You don't need to have a partnership agreement in place or anything of that type. An OS plan, and you can just download it and draw a line around it. We don't need anything technical at this stage. An estimation of the total area of public green space, hopefully you know that, and the population that will live within your project area. A few top tips. Don't forget the submission date. We do literally cut it off at 12 noon. So if you're late, you won't be able to take part. Follow the Towns and Cities expression of interest help notes, which are on our website. And you'll find that if you go to Nature, Towns and Cities, you'll find all the links on there that you need. Email us those supporting documents, and you'll see how you do that on the thing. And if you have a question, get in touch. And as I say, Natalie and Mark and I are all around for the rest of the day, so come and grab us if you have any questions around this, and we'll hopefully be able to help you. And just there's an email address and my email address if you want to particularly email me questions. But I think, is there a chance for some questions now?
There is a quick chance for a couple of questions. I'm sure there's some burning ones in people's... I'm not sure that goes on there, but we'll work that out. Any questions?
Great, that's that.
You can't have lunch, let's ask a question. Come on, it's a question.
I'm John Hulbert, Wychhaven District Council. We're lucky enough that we reasonably rural area, 3 market towns or spa towns, populations of about 30,000. So we're not talking the big projects that Bradford are dealing with and so on, much smaller projects, much smaller population. Will the heritage funding that you've been talking about be relevant to us?
Yes, I would say yes. One of the things that we're really keen to do, and we did exactly the same on the Future Parks, is to have a portfolio of projects. So Future Parks was about testing out ideas. It was about trying out different things in different scales, different types of place, difficult political places as well. So one of the things that we're really interested in is towns. So it could well be that actually bringing 3 towns together is a really interesting project about how you work in those 3 different places across the district or the borough. So yeah, we're really interested in the big cities, but also right the way down to the smaller towns where, you know, you equally have problems about trying to fund and maintain green spaces. So yeah, it's relevant to all of those different places. In thinking about how we award the grants, geography will come into it, and that portfolio will be really important. So we won't be supporting just 15 cities, for example.
Any other questions? One more. Just time for one more question.
Mark Yates, Coventry City Council. Sort of the opposite to the previous question. We are working fairly closely with the West Midlands Combined Authority. Would you consider the WMCA as a suitable partner? And would you see the Nature Towns and Cities scheme cooperating or working in tandem with schemes such as the local investment in natural capital programme?
Yep. A similar answer, we're really interested in scale. So I'm actually at the West Midlands Combined Authority Environment Summit tomorrow. And Natural England are going to be there as well. But yeah, we've been having conversations with Manchester. We've had a conversation recently with Greater London Authority as well. So, you know, the options in London are, does the GLA apply? Does it apply with a group of boroughs, or do the boroughs all just apply on their own? All of that we've left completely open for people. So one of the things that was really interesting, on the webinar we did a couple of weeks ago, was just watching the chat. We had a large number of people. I've never seen a chat so lively. And it was people asking for partners to work with. So it was local authorities wanting to work together, or a wildlife trust wanting to work with a local authority, or some of the big combined ones on there as well. So yeah, we're really open to whatever is going to be the best option for your place. Think about applying.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your questions.